You all back? I see a lot of familiar faces. I see some new faces. That's nice too. This month we have Roads Brewery from Brooklyn, New York. And we have Mark here to tell us about it. He actually was here for one of the beer club for Citizen Cider. You guys remember that?
Yeah, that was right before everything went to shit.
People don't remember anything. But the beers are great, and looking forward to trying them all. I've really only had 2 of them tonight, so I'm looking forward to trying them the same as you. I guess let's just get going. So here's Mark from Roads.
All right.
Thanks for coming. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, like I said, Mark from Roads. We're a brew pub from Gowanus in Brooklyn, New York. Started out exclusively as a brew pub. It was never part of the plan to send beer out to different bars and restaurants around the city or anywhere beyond that. With that small scale and small focus, it meant that Roads could do a lot of weird stuff outside of the norm for what the craft beer world was after. And as Roads has grown, that same philosophy hasn't really changed. So we're not super focused on IPAs, which kind of goes against the grain of a lot of other breweries and other trends in craft beer. While we are going to drink 2 hoppy beers today, we're also going to have super traditional German Pilsner. We're going to have farmhouse table beer, and then we're also going to have sour as well. So that really covers like the different directions that Roads is always moving in. And this is going on 7 years that Roads has been in existence. Started out in Gowanus, brewing on a really small scale right there. And now we have another location in Greenpoint. We've got a summer pop-up on Governor's Island, so you can take the ferry over there to check it out. And actually at all 3 of those spots, we paired up with Meat Hook. There are like food partners at each of those spots, so awesome burgers, fries, and other stuff at those. So yeah, come out and visit us for sure anytime. And yeah, you'll get a nice taste of each of the different directions that Roads is always moving in between hoppy beers, lagers, and wild stuff. So thanks for coming.
Hi everybody, I'm Julian with Union Beer. We're the distributors for Roads. I work on the specialty team, so I get to work with all the cool stuff. But yeah, so the first one I believe you have, everybody has them in front of them right now, right? Yeah, so the first one you've got is Bleat. That is, it's pronounced Bleat, not Bleat or Blight. Bleat. Bleat. Don't worry, it's get mad if you mispronounce it.
I don't know if it's on tap.
It sounds smart to your friends. And if I recall correctly, Bleat is Dutch, correct? And it's a reference to, I believe it's Dutch for stream or canal, something like that. But if you notice in the can, it's got kind of a water motif. It's a reference to the Gowanus Canal. I don't think a lot of folks appreciate thinking about the Gowanus Canal when they're sipping on a delicious German-style Pilsner, but nonetheless, Bleat is a fantastic beer. It is one of Roads' 2 core beers, along with Logical Conclusion, which is that. But what makes a German Pilsner is you're thinking, using old world hops or noble hops. Think a little bit, you're probably getting some grassy notes, a little bit like sharpness from the hop profile, but still easygoing, still crisp. It's about 5%, I believe, ABV or so. I know a lot of Roads cans, they don't really throw the ABV on there, but yeah, this is one of their easiest drinking beers, along with another one we have here, table beer, which we'll get to that, which is a pretty unique style. But yeah, so folks still doing the Bleat?
Very good.
Yeah? Cool.
Very nice.
Cool, cool.
I know I was fast. You know the answer.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll try my best.
So do they brewing at Industrial Arts? Because I see on the can that this is okay.
Yeah, so I'm glad you bring it up. So, Bleat, as Mark was mentioning, kind of started as a small operation. There wasn't really much of an intention to grow at the pace that it has, but we're out here in Staten Island, we're all over Brooklyn and Manhattan. So it's at the point now where
I'll just take it back and have them
some of the
I'll
beer,
take
some
this
of
home, so I don't
Bleat in
want.
particular, which is
I'll take this home because I don't want you guys to waste this out.
has to be,
We'll give
they
her
have
the
to outsource some of that brewing over at Industrial Arts. But if
yeah.
y'all aren't super familiar with like contract brewing, gypsy brewing is kind of another concept that's related to that. It's really dependent on a relationship building. The folks at Threes didn't just go with whoever. It's lots of conversations and lots of brewing together to make sure basically they get the beer damn right. And they have. So, yeah. I think they might be grabbing the next round, or what's their pacing? People still on the Bleat thing right now?
Imagine reality right now.
Imagine reality, cool. Sweet. I will grab a sample of that.
There's no tops to that size, so I'll give you 2 little ones.
That's
Tops.
I'm gonna be eating this tomorrow. You know what's funny? The last time I tried to take this salad home, I left it here at the restaurant. And I felt so bad, and I was like,
you should have that one. All right.
I felt so bad because it was like I really liked the salad.
Okay, you got it from here?
Yes.
If anyone's got any questions, I feel like
I got one.
Go ahead.
I'll make it quick. What inspires the brews? Like, do you just like come up, like wake up one day, it's like, you know, I want to do a Goza. Let's try that. Or is it more like market research?
so. If I got the question right, it's what inspires some of these recipes, some of these beers, and it's kind of a mix of things. A lot of times, like the craft beer industry is a small world, and a lot of good folks work in this industry. So a lot of it is sometimes just based on stories and things like that, just good times. Yeah, sometimes it is market research, and it's, okay, what styles are going to move, this and that. Sometimes it's just coming down from owners who are like, hey, you know what, we should do this style because this style makes sense right now. What can you do with that?
Imagine reality, yeah.
And then that's when the fun comes in. I always describe the craft beer industry as a perfect amalgam of science and art, which is, you know, I have more an artist background, but like appreciate the sciences, mathematics, and all that.
I got it.
So, yeah, it's kind of a mix of, you know, the boring stuff, the business side, but also the fun creative side. And that's how you end up with like, some of the beers that you guys are having today.
I'm gonna get more.
All right, so the beer
All I
that
did
we
was flip the
poured
plate over.
now, I'm not sure if everyone has it yet, but it's Imagined Reality. So this is one of Three's rotating IPAs. So Three's, as I believe I mentioned, has 2 core beers that are flagship beers for them, no pun intended, flagship beer, that are available year-round, all the time, are crushers. But what Three's has kind of become equally known for is the rotating batch of fantastic IPAs, lagers, farmhouse ales, all sorts of interesting stuff. Imagine Reality is an all-galaxy IPA. Galaxy hop is a type of hop. And this is at about, I believe, 7.2% or so. Double check that. 6.8. Oh, thank you. And I have joined you guys in the fun. So
Look at that. Why don't you put the two little
a lot of IPAs, most IPAs are
like, just put it in and
hopped
then put
with a mishmash of different hops. It's a mix of what flavors and aromas, almost more importantly the aromas, that the brewer is looking for. And finding that nice fruity balance, or when you're using Australian, New Zealand hops, you get almost bubblegum flavors, things like that. Pacific Northwest hops, you're getting a lot of piney, citrusy notes. With something like Galaxy, kind of getting an amalgam of different fruit notes. So that being said about how most IPAs are a mix and a mishmash of different hops, intentionally, but still a mix for various reasons. It always is a special, to me, it's a special occasion when there's an IPA that's like, yeah, this is just one hop. And for those of you who are very interested in the craft beer realm, and for myself included, I'm not much of an IPA drinker myself. I love the opportunity to sit down and have a solid IPA that is single hopped, because this is one of the best ways you can come to understand what flavors and what notes and what aromas you get from certain hops. And again, in this case, this is Galaxy. But yeah, besides that, just talking about single hop IPAs in general, again, Threes really knocks it out of the park with their IPAs. I find a lot of people quite notice with this. This is what you would call a New England IPA, as opposed to a West Coast IPA, which is a classic IPA of your,
What do you think is the current trend in IPAs?
Sean, my coworker here, is asking what the current trend is in IPAs, and there's very much what you're drinking in front of you right now. It has been for a few years, has been since, I'd say, the early 2000s probably. It's very much a response to what you're used to in terms of bitter, resinous, not opaque, very clear IPAs. And in front of you here with the New England IPA, you really are getting the opposite. Something hazy, it's very opaque. You get much more, I wouldn't say much more flavor and aroma. You get a very different sense of the flavor and aroma from the hops, from the beer itself. It gets to the point sometimes where you could say the IBUs are high on a beer like this, but if you notice, there's very little bitterness. Very little bitterness. So that's something, if there's anything I can impart to you right now about IPAs, it's when you go to the bar, don't ask what do you have that has like the highest IBUs. Don't ask about IBUs, it is irrelevant. Fun fact, you can have a stout that has 120 IBUs. Does that taste hoppy? Does that taste bitter? You might get a little bit of astringency if it's got coffee in it, stuff like that, but it's just about how much you're getting in there. But it's, with that trail stout, it's being overwhelmed by the malt. In this case, it's a matter of using the Galaxy hops where they're not imparting a lot of bitter notes and flavors. You're getting a lot more of that fruit. So next one. Cool. So we got table beer coming around, or it's already, yeah, it's coming around. So table beer is one of my favorite beers from Threes. I don't know how many of you folks are familiar with what a table beer is, but this is actually a Belgian style of beer. It's called a table beer because the idea is that they're so low in alcohol content, you can literally have them at the table, have them with dinner. Decades, centuries ago, they would have this beer. They would literally give it to children while they were having the dinner. You can see table beers that range from like 1.5% ABV, really low. Like that's less ABV than some hard kombuchas that are, or not even hard kombuchas, but regular kombuchas that, because they're fermentable products or fermented products, have higher ABV than that. But with table beer, I believe it's about 3% or so. But this is
what I missed.
4.2, thank you.
About the table.
Quite easy drinking. The hops are very, very muted. Very muted. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you folks have already started sipping, but if you have any beer left in the cup, like take a nice little whiff of that. And just for something that's so low ABV, you get such a potent. To me,
It has like a salinity to it.
what is it?
Like a salinity.
A salinity? Yeah. It's really refreshing. It's really easygoing. I'd say similarly to a lot of lagers, like the Bleat that you had. It's a beer style where there isn't much you could hide behind when making. So it takes a lot of chutzpah to claim that you can make a good table beer, just like you can claim that you can make a good German style Pilsner or any type of Pilsner. You don't have a bunch of fruit and coconut,
There's no
chocolate,
glue sheet,
and all
right?
this other stuff to hide behind when
That's
you
it.
make a mistake during the brewing process.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you
something to
very
keep in mind for beers like
Okay, second time around.
Pilsners,
Much better.
lagers, that are easy drinking, that aren't adjuncted, meaning stuff added to it, like Bleat, and easy drinking ales, Belgian style ales like table beer. But yeah.
And then there's absolutely nothing to hide.
That's something else.
Yeah. You have all flavor.
And Dries does a pretty good job of having a lot of fun and doing a lot of cool stuff with a lot of beers. Like, it's very hard to find, very limited, but they do make a barrel-aged version of table beer.
Wow.
So that's out there. That might be, I think there's a, I forget, there might be a double dry hop version of table beer, I forget. There's definitely a barrel-aged version of table beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
small batch.
Yeah, and the table beer is one that Threes puts out and we distribute. Every so often it's out there. It's not around all the time, but on draft it's here and there, on cans here and there. So when you find it, you're looking for something to just crush at home, grab it, because it's not going to be around for very long. You'll have to wait a couple months before you grab it again.
Beverage Island.
Yeah.
If you want to buy any Threes products, Beverage Island over here, they have a pretty nice assortment.
Beverage Island.
Aside from Hop Shoppe.
Yeah.
Besides Hop Shoppe, your #1 spot for craft beer.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, like let's say table beer. It's kind of like not what you really think of Threes. Do you find like are a lot of accounts in New York City asking for that? Is that like popular or not that popular?
Yeah, good question. So what Mike asked for, if you couldn't hear him, is basically what the popularity is of a beer like this. Are people, what's the demand for the beer? And it's definitely there. Especially, so I cover Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island as specialty rep. Before that, for the past 2.5 years, I've been working in the financial district in Manhattan as a regular rep. So lots of high-end, food-focused Michelin-starred restaurants, things like that. And yeah, the demand for a beer like table beer, for the reasons that I explained, is high because it is simple, it's drinkable, it's not overwhelming, it pairs well with food, it's very approachable, and then there's a certain quality, and like I said, kind of like a certain confidence when you're making a beer like that and putting that out there. That's required to put a beer out there like that. So, but despite it not being crazy like double dry hop bomb or pastry style,
retiring
give
this year?
it
Miss
one.
Wiseman?
Miss Thomas.
And
Miss Thomas.
there's also kind of like the
Are we
honey
invited?
nature of
Is
it
she the one that
called
has
table beer,
the 4th of
having
July
it at
party?
your dinner table.
I don't know if she's doing it though.
And I do think Threes
That is-
in the
it's
past,
Miss Thomas
I'm
that
not
would
sure if
help
they're doing
her,
it
right?
currently, Threes in the past did bottle it in large bottles, which is how it would have been served historically. Belgian table beer is like that.
Ours is an older style. Industry is trending way.
Yeah. As Sean was saying that, unfortunately for folks who like to, share and have these wine-sized bottles. They're kind of on there. They're not as popular these days as 16-ounce cans. But if you're like me, you're probably sharing a 16-ounce can anyway. I'm not drinking a whole can of many things because I'm trying many at once. So. Yeah, it's something I definitely encourage. If you're hanging out at a spot here like Hop Shoppe, I'm sure you're going to learn all of that mindset as well. So, you know, get a can, share it, and keep on buying more beers. Try as much as you can.
Good advice.
Yeah. I think this is the last one. Conclusion. Second to last. But this was logical conclusion, correct, Mike?
Yeah.
Yes, you got logical inclusion being poured for you right now, which is Three's second pour year-round beer. This is another New England style IPA. So this one is less of a lesson in particular hop because they are using a couple different hops in it. Yep.
So I had a question for Julian here. So everyone's heard of the New England IPA. I was asking what the origins were of the New England IPA. Many believe it's the Alchemist Heady Topper, if you've heard of the beer. I'm wondering, is that who created the New England IPA?
Yeah, pretty much. And there's actually a funny story to that. So Alchemist out of Vermont. I don't know if this is hearsay, but this is the story that's been told so much. So let's just get it set in stone here on the mic. We'll make it true. So they were making an IPA, and as this happens when you're a craft brewery, mistakes happen. Up until that point, it was very popular for IPAs to be, like I said, very, I wouldn't say transparent or translucent, but not very opaque. You can see through them. Not a lot of, pretty filtered. You're not getting hop dumped in there. You're not getting anything. Pretty clean experience in terms of, like, visually, at least. I guess tactile-wise, but yeah, they weren't hop box. They were much more malt box for sure. High malt bills, like very large malt bills. So very malty in the palate, but also high ABV. You had the whole range. Their IPA came out opaque as hell. If I recall correctly, I believe it was their filtration system, like just busted. It went out during the process. So again, at the time, it's probably funny to think this now, but it comes out like, what the fuck? Pardon my language, but I assume there aren't any children here sipping a beer. It looks like a milkshake. It's okay. What'd you say?
It's a one typo.
Oh right, it was one. I apologize. Congratulations, by the way. Yeah, it comes out opaque, almost milky looking. Basically, what happened is the hop particles and then what you end up with weren't filtered out. And they look at it and go, oh no, like what are we gonna do with this? Well, we can't dump it because we just spent a ton of money, and we're a tiny brewery, and this won't work for us. So story goes, they canned the beer in 16-ounce cans, and on the can, to this day, you'll see right up top, it just says, drink straight from the can. So they encouraged customers, fun little thing, yeah, drink straight from the can, don't pour this into a glass. And it worked. Folks really enjoyed the flavor, really enjoyed the aroma. It was a fun experience.
People wait online 6-7 hours in Vermont to get these cans. Very lucrative. Hop Shoppe gets them from time to time, so ask Mike. Very, very limited. But Alchemist Heady Topper is the beer.
Yeah, the father/mother of New England IPAs. So, and it is a brand that we carry in beer, and Hop Shoppe will carry that
How long ago was this accident?
Like 10, 11 years, around 2010, I would say. And that was essentially the birth of the New England IPA. Yeah, and that's why it's called the New England IPA, because it was in Vermont, when it started. So, but, oh, you used Eternal Return. Oh, are you pouring that now? Cool. I feel like I didn't show enough love to Logical Conclusion, but it's a fantastic beer. As someone who isn't an IPA drinker, I will drink the hell out of Logical Conclusion. It's easygoing. So now you got Eternal Return.
That's yep.
Correctly, this Eternal Return batch, this is strawberry? Mike, do you have the strawberry or is it the strawberry? Yeah. It's a strawberry, yeah.
Yeah, the pepper?
So, this is,
You got it.
so this is a great, Mike's brought in a great spread of Threes beers here, which I'm really happy about. It's not just the IPAs, where they're like so popular for right now, but bringing in their lager, and their lager game is fantastic. Bringing in some of the easier drinking Belgian styles, and then also having stuff like Eternal Return and some of their sours, and stuff that is in, they're about, this obviously isn't a 750, it's a 5.4 ounce. This is a 500 ml. So if you've ever been to the Threes Gowanus location, they do have a little like bottle shop there, and you'll see a lot of these bottles. But every once in a while we get some stuff out in the market. And Hop Shoppe is such a great account. We obviously made sure that
what is it, really sour?
Out here. So this is something that, for me, it's something, as Mike is doing, you smell, you appreciate, you look at, you do the process. There are a lot of folks who, if you want to get snobby, and I say that as a snob about beer, drink it the way, this is a beer you should drink the way you drink a wine. You know, don't just pound it down. Like, take your time and appreciate it. It's okay if you've already been sipping, that's fine, but still take a look. Like, look at it, like, really experience it with all your senses. Look at it, look at the color, take that with. There are a couple of different ways to smell it. You can bury your nose in it, you do a quick pass, whatever you do, make sure you're getting a good smell. Taste it, and then also feel it. Switch it around a little bit.
I mean, I've had a big love of sour beers ever since I came across Goza's.
Yes.
So, what style of sour beer is it?
So, the sour category of beer is rather large. So the question was, what style is this beer? I'll kind of run into that. And you were mentioning Gozas and things like that. There are all sorts of these styles of beers like that. It's not doing a beer justice to simply say it is a sour ale or a sour beer, because that can mean anything. It really can. Same as with IPAs right now. If you're trying to get a gift for someone, if you're buying a beer at the bar, don't just go up and say, I want an IPA. Be clear. I want something bitter. I want something fruity. Whatever. Same thing with sours. I want something intense and biting. I want something that's citrusy and tart. I want something that's funky. I want something that's fruited, maybe. I want something that's soft on the palate. Something that maybe has lactose in it, milk sugar, which gives it a creamy, soft feel. I want something that's going to be sharp and prickly, like a Berliner Weiss or a Gose. My kind of favorite souring process is what Threes is utilizing pretty frequently, such as with Eternal Return, where a lot of these are what's called mixed fermentation or mixed culture. So what you're getting at is, we're not talking about like the yeast, we're talking about the nitty-gritty of that process. In a brewery, think of it like it really is a very sensitive chemical process. Everything is pretty clean, everything is pretty specific. When you the mixed fermentation process involves introducing what could end up resulting in a disaster for your beer. You can end up with beers that are sour that you don't want to be sour when you have outside organisms being introduced, and they start eating up the malt, the sugar, and they start putting out these sour notes. So when a brewery takes some of these organisms, basically breeds them and introduces them into the beer, it's a very purposeful process. And that's how you get these very well-balanced sour beers, these mixed fermentation, mixed culture beers. They're very Belgian style as well.
Outside organisms. I know Lindeman's is known for their wild yeast. Like, it's a very specialized, unique thing. Is there any other wild yeast that you've heard of, or special, like, you know, natural outside substances that affect the beer?
I mean, there are a lot of types of yeast, like Brettanomyces, which is what this beer has in it, by the way, Brettanomyces, and there are a couple of different, like, I'm not a chemist or biologist or anything, please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who doesn't know, but Brettanomyces is a popular one, because it does impart some interesting kind of funky notes, which I feel is a terrible descriptor. You get, think hay, think kind of barnyard. Horseblank is not a common descriptor. You know, you have, don't believe Therese has a cool ship, but a cool ship is a type of fermentation vessel that is, pardon me, rather than a sealed vessel to keep all the, you know, scary guys out, it's literally a big open vat. And this is a whole process that, like, farmers were doing for centuries, because they don't have stainless steel, like, engineered, like, vats in the 19th century. So they brewed, yeah, Germany, Belgium, yeah, especially the like Franco-Belgian border. This is very popular thing that was going on, especially seasonally, and it was kind of a way for farmers sometimes to pay their farm hands. Was with this beer that they made themselves, but you had open vats, and whatever was in the air, whatever microorganisms were in the air, they would get in, and you get a very interesting profile, similar, same thing, what I was talking about in terms of sour notes, it's funkiness, some barnyard-like notes, which, like, if you don't know what you're in for, you think your beer is bad, like it's gone bad. So you just, it's very important to understand that these certain notes are very much intentional. But anyway, this beer is not, it's stainless steel. They're using stainless steel containers, tanks. It's not open fermented. If it was, it would be a lot more potent in terms of those kind of funky notes. And this is aged for, I believe it's 12 months. And it is fermented with Brettanomyces yeast. So you have a question? What's that? Yes. Yeah. So 12 months. It's about 12 months, and it sits on the fruit. And this is a rotating fruit series. So this one is strawberry. They have done apricot. We've done a few others as well. And it is something that Therese has a lot of fun with. There's another series called Thought Experiment. The current one I think is on blueberries. So it's definitely worth it. When you see this beer, when you see it here at Hop Shoppe, you see it out and about, it's worth grabbing it every time because you're going to have a different experience. Question?
So when you say it sits on blueberries or strawberries, so when you say it sits on blueberries or strawberries, so are they a mash or are they whole and they just, or is it just the whole berry or the whole blueberry?
So there are different processes that you can use. In some cases, it is straight up just taking the juice and mashing the fruit, throwing it in there. Sometimes it's the whole fruit. If I recall correctly, I believe with Eternal Return, it is the whole fruit that they're using. I don't believe they're mashing the juice. If they were, you would be getting a much different color and a much more potent flavor and aroma. And that's what you get a lot of. It's the aroma. When you're adding stuff to beer, folks are expecting, oh, I just want this to taste like coconuts or strawberry or whatever. And it's like, well, it's not just about the taste, it's the flavor, which includes that, the aromatic experience. There's also, to kind of jump off from that question, at what point do you add the fruit? Because you can condition a beer on fruit, whereas if it's sitting in a barrel for 12 months, you have it sitting with the fruit conditioned on it. Then you have the process of fermenting with the fruit. And when the beer is being fermented with the fruit, you're providing more sugar and more food for the yeast. So you end up with a very interesting.
I have a question. What's your favorite fruit focus? Is it like a Vita Purple or like fancy like
Sean asked you what my favorite fruited beer is, and if it was a Vita Purple Haze.
Staten love this.
I am not hating on a Vita Purple Haze, and it's a classic. It's a Vita Purple Haze. Fun fact: it's actually a lager that is, it's conditioned or fermented, but it's brewed with raspberries. People don't realize it's a lager because it's such a unique beer. They actually make another beer that is probably one of my favorite go-to fruited beers. Strawberry lager. Strawberry lager.
So that was a seasonal, and it was so popular they made it.
Yeah. If you didn't hear Sean, it was so popular they made it year-round. It was just seasonal out here. So Vita's out of New Orleans. I know this is a threesome and I'm talking about a Vita, but this is how it goes. Yeah, what's up?
Do you find that sours are getting more popular, or do you think like IPA still dominates the craft
When she comes by.
beer? Because it's like,
Because I'll
you
just
see that
use it
online,
to
it's another craft beer, IPA, it's like, and sours are so good.
Yeah, good question. So the question to kind of boil it down is, what are we seeing in terms of the popularity of like sours, especially mixed amongst the IPA craze? What I tell folks that when I'm talking to bar buyers, I obviously work with a lot of folks, just for a little peek behind the curtain how this works. My job is, I don't consider myself like working in sales, like a sales rep. I'm a consultant, right? That's how I view myself, and that's how I gotta view ourselves, and that's also how this industry works. Is we're having conversations where this isn't like, here's what I want you to take. This is what is popular right now. This is what your customer base wants. And then in some cases, it's like, hey, this is up and coming in other parts of the country or the world. This is something that's picking up over here. But right now, well, always, IPA is always the most, just generally, it's a big, broad category. IPA, India Pale Ale, is always #1 top dog, probably across the world, in the US at least. I know folks that, some of the best-selling beers, you've got American White Lagers, like Bud Light, things like that, Heineken, and this and that. But IPAs are always crushing it. And it's just constantly changing. There's a different trend, there's a different fad. Right now it's the New England IPA, the hazy IPA, which has been around for now, 11 years or so. It's going on for a little bit, but you always see something new. So right now you see session IPAs are getting more and more popular, which is just another word for a pale ale.
They're weak.
They're weak. Sure.
It's like, okay, it's like when I want an IPA, when I'm getting an IPA, I'm expecting it to have at least start from 6 and go up. All of a sudden, it's like session IPA, 4, and then it goes down, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, so that's the whole thing with the.
You can see now like low calorie IPAs.
Yeah.
Oh. No.
Typical IPA drinker doesn't give a shit about that. It's just funny because we try it and it's not good.
Every time I see like, oh, it's a low calorie beer. If you're watching your diet, don't drink beer.
No, drink beer always. Always.
That's like, oh, I'm like,
Never
I
not
want to
drink
be
beer.
on a diet and drink beer. That doesn't
Beer
work.
is life. Beer is life. But in terms of sours, sours are always have become incredibly popular as well. You now see sour IPAs are a big thing. They're very interesting because you're getting basically, you can get a lot of those the sour notes you're looking for, but you're getting various hoppy, fruity. They're not usually bitter. They're not usually piney, resinous hops. They're being used. Pacific Northwest hops. They're usually these fruitier, more tropical hops. So that's kind of I think the sour IPAs are a perfect amalgam of what are probably two of the most trendy beer styles right now. But specifically with sours, what you're going to see a lot of when you're out there hunting around, especially in 16-ounce cans, you're going to be seeing sours that have a lot of fruit in them, like actual fruit, not just fruity notes, but actual fruit, guava, passion fruit, things like that. But then lactose, which gives them as I mentioned, gives beers soft, creamy notes. Can add a touch of sweetness, but do keep in mind if you're lactose intolerant, if a beer has lactose in it, you will be intolerant to that beer.
Yeah, sure.
It has actual lactose in it, so note that. But I don't remember where I was going with that. With all that. But well, think of like left-hand milk stout. It's called, and a milk stout as a style. It's literally a stout with not milk, but milk sugar, lactose in it. And what happens is milk sugar is harder for the yeast to kind of break down. There's a very particular chemical process to that I'm not super knowledgeable about, but what ends up happening is basically parts of these sugar particles remain in the beer. And that's why you get a thicker, creamier, smoother beer. And sometimes a touch of that sweetness as well. But yeah, so if you see a milk anything beer, they're not usually adding actual, as far as I know, actual milk to it. But anyway, you had a question.
While we're off on the tangent of sours,
yeah.
What is your opinion of kettle sours?
Kettle sours. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question because we were talking about mixed fermentation and mixed culture, which is again what eternal return is. So it is. Think of it almost more as a kind of like it's not exactly. Almost like more of a natural organic process in terms of how the lactobacillus cultures are, like what's going on there with that, and the souring process, where it's organisms kind of doing their thing, and you're getting, what you're getting is being produced by these organisms. A kettle sour is an easy, basically it's a cheaper and easier way for a brewery to make a sour beer. What you tend to get with kettle sours are very, very intensely sour beers because what they're doing is they're literally taking lactic acid and throwing it in there.
But they're nowhere near as complex as something like this.
What's that?
They're nowhere near as complex as
Yeah, you usually miss out on a lot of complexity. Yeah. I'm really glad. Yeah, you're hitting the nail on that. If you're just like, if it's a person like, I just want something really sour and intense, then yeah, kettle sours do the job for you, right? A lot of these breweries right now are with their kettle sours are just throwing fruit in there to give it something else. But you have a beer like this, or one of my favorite beer styles, honestly, is a Flanders Red Ale, Flemish Red. And very much not a kettle sour experience. They're very, I don't know what I call them, balanced, but very complex, very interesting. You should really drink those like wine. You don't need to have them straight out of the fridge. Let them sit in cellar temperature, maybe 50, 55 degrees or something. Really, like, take a whiff, like let it sit, sip it slowly. You get your sour notes. But you get a lot of the wood that it's been sitting on as well. which you do if you're really into wine. A lot of folks talk about how like, oh yeah, it tastes good. I mean, think about Chardonnay and you think about buttery, like butter, and that's kind of and then with spirits as well. You know, the barrel and its aging is very important, but a lot of aroma, a lot. So kettle sours tend to miss out on a lot of that complexity. Yeah. It is a little bit cheap. I don't want to like knock anybody because they can be interesting. Yeah. Beer is beer.
I would say maybe it's not a cheat. I would say it's a beginner sour.
Maybe if what you're looking for specifically is tartness and sourness, then a lot of kettle sours are what you're looking for.
I mean, like if it's a brewery and they want to, I would say like more in the beginner sense, if it's a brewery and they want to make a sour and they haven't done one before, a kettle sour is like a kind of, easier way to go than just like trying something very complicated.
Yeah, so kettle sours are, as I mentioned, can be easier and cheaper to make. Less room for error because you're really controlling that process a lot more because, again, you're taking that lactic acid through.
Have you ever been to Two Roads in Connecticut?
I have not been to Two Roads. Are you going to talk about their Goza?
No, not the Goza. The unfortunate part is you can't have any. If you have kids, you can't bring them. They're not allowed, and they're just not allowed on the campus of Two Roads. Sad. If so, get a babysitter or a nanny. Now, the interesting part is Two Roads has their main brewery, and then they have their experimental brewery where they do like the weird stuff. And I have to say, going to their experimental thing is really cool because you have to go up over the brewery itself, and as you walk on this like bridge, you can see the brewers brewing beer, and they have all different kinds of things to brew beer, and they have like traditional old style things. They have beers brewing in old casks, and I have to say one of the most coolest things I ever had was it was a type of sour ale. Can't remember the exact type, but it was a type of sour ale. But they had it in the regular place, but this one was the experimental one. They aged it in rum barrels.
Yeah, so to roll off that, it's something you're seeing a lot of breweries do right now, or you're seeing more and more breweries do, which is, but also just generally having these side projects because, look, business is business, right? You're opening a brewery because the intent is to not go broke. So you're going to make what to make. You're going to make with threes. You're going to make your logical conclusion and your Bleat and your monthly rotating IPA because those are what sell. They are so fantastic and it's like, you got it locked in. And then you've got all the other fun stuff, right? You make the stuff that butters the bread, and then you get to have all the fun in the dessert, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see breweries opening up these side projects, things like that. Threes, as far as I know, threes. I don't know if Threes finds it necessary or needs to open up a separate facility because they're doing a lot of it. So they have the core beers like the Bleat brewed up at Industrial Arts, which I love, by the way. I love them. They're fantastic. Industrial Arts is not our brands, unfortunately. And then they're making all the fun stuff at their smaller space in Gowanus, right there. Again, if you haven't been, you gotta check it out.
They're trying to sell. They're trying to sell because they say outrageous beer.
Ooh, that's a good question. So Sean, Sean is the union beer rep for Staten. He is your Staten guy. So he's the man over here. I am just a visitor, I'm just a tourist here. He's the man. Yeah, good question. So, who's making the most like interesting, or weird, or eclectic, or fun, funky stuff in Brooklyn? I mean, obviously, throw Threes a little bit of love. But Threes is definitely up there. Not so much in terms of making weird, eclectic stuff, but I would say in terms of having such a fantastic. I am a huge Threes Brewing fan. Not just because I sell it, but back when I was still working in TV and film, I loved Threes. I was going to the brewery, I was hanging out there, Wandering Vine, which is fantastic, which you need to take in if you have not taken it in. Have you had Wandering Vine? Okay, I'm gonna get you some Wandering Vine. It is a fantastic Fooderage farmhouse ale. And I'll get to that in a bit to answer Sean's question. But I fell in love with that beer, and I usually have a 750 of that in my fridge. But just the fact that Threes is doing stuff like that, solid extreme lagers. I said this earlier, kind of repeating myself. Really trendy, fantastic New England IPAs, even West Coast IPAs, and then doing fun stuff like mixed fermentation, 12-month barrel aged sours on strawberries, the protein sour series. A fooder spelled F-O-E-D-E-R. Is basically a giant oak barrel. If I recall correctly, it's usually French oak, because French oak is a little subtler than American oak is, and you can get a little more complex, subtler notes from that. But also a fooder being this giant upright barrel, like seriously, it could be the size of this room.
Yeah,
They're
two roads
giant, and they're standing up usually, and what ends up happening is a lot more of the liquid is touching a lot more of the wood at the same time. You usually let it sit there for a longer period of time, and you just get such beautifully complex notes from the wood, as opposed to just this harsh, not I shouldn't say harsh, but more intense notes. Sometimes what you're looking for is a barrel aged beer or something. Threes does have at least one fooder. And they do
my mom and I will go for
smoked Helles called
it's logical
Short Fuse. Helles is
I think that's
classic,
what it is.
easy drinking German lager. Helles literally means
that's really
clear or golden. They smoke it and then age it in a fooder. It's just really cool, fun stuff. But
yes,
outside
as I
of
strain my back,
kind of making really cool stuff in Brooklyn.
Why? What happened?
I mean, I would say Grim, Wild East. I mean, there's just, and I really don't. I know we're talking about Brooklyn, and I really don't want to show a lack of appreciation for what the breweries out here in Staten Island are doing. Hillsborough and Flagship, I love them both very much. Yeah, there's a lot going on in Brooklyn right now. KCBC's out there. There's really fantastic. The industry in New York City is just grown like crazy over the past 5 years. It's just insane what you can get in the city now, and it is competitive. But it's also there's such a big folks are such compatriots, you see a lot of New York breweries collaborating with each other, literally on beers, collaboration beers. It's really amazing. You think in New York, maybe folks would catch a little more, but it's not really what's happening in the beer industry. It's like, what I always love to say is you don't freaking see that with insurance companies. You don't see them out there collaborating on insurance releases, right? No, it's juicy policies. No offense to anybody who works in insurance. But it's not like that. They're not trying to take each other out. Everybody's trying to grow together. And you see everybody's just doing really cool stuff, like Wild Yeast, I mentioned. There's a lot of cool, easy drinking lagers and saisons and farmhouse ales, and Grim is incredibly popular. So they're doing amazing stuff. But
you see all seltzers that are all over the world. What bigger than extra? There's also a good amount of non-alcoholics. Everybody's
guys coming out again?
We need to do athletic beverage, which is, I think,
A lot of people like
So to kind of
that is a big trending non-alcoholic beer. So everyone knows it all. My grandmother would drink Old Jules. And back 5 years ago, Old Jules was only in a I never drank one, I'm sure it's never but now it's nice. And it's not alcohol. So
name one, and then besides those two, it's the only one I know.
So the question originally was about what, again, talking about trendy and trends, and seltzers, hard seltzers.
Yeah, they're terrible.
White Claw with less
Parasitic infection taking over. Okay, that being said, disclaimer, Threes does make a hard seltzer. And I personally don't hate hard seltzers as much as I make it sound like I do.
I'm the same. I don't buy it.
Oh, I still like it. I mean, it's not the first thing I buy, but yeah. So hard seltzers are really taking off. Like it was like 2 years ago. And it was a whole thing that like, oh yeah, there's no way this is just going to be a year-long trend. Hard seltzers, this is ridiculous or whatever. It could really be like Sean said, it could be a decade-long trend. Every summer, people are crushing it. And you have people like
this is not free, but
I was just kind of doing
whoa, I'm
I'll take, yeah, this cup's quite clean.
So very good. Sean was talking about like not your father's root beer. Yeah, and how it's like they're now called like FMBs, fermented malt beverages. Basically anything that's kind of like beer but isn't beer. And yeah, sugar, this and that. And it was just such a like here and there, whatever kind of thing. And now it's just really taken off. But you also, I think part of it really is you have breweries and seltzeries, I guess.
We should give KJ one of those.
We're taking this seriously, or at least taking the popularity seriously and making really good stuff, and putting a lot of science behind it. And the quality has really changed. And for anyone else who's a seltzer hater, like it's worth. You will find something out there. Maybe you won't sell if you're running a bar, but you will probably be interested in trying and having. And so going over the non-alcoholic. So right now, I think Mike be passing out some Run Wild. Yeah. So Mike is actually passing out some Athletic Run Wild IPA. This is a non-alcoholic IPA. It is Athletic's really awesome. They're out of Connecticut, if I recall correctly. And this was started by.
It tastes like a lie. It tastes like lies. It really does taste like an IPA, but there's like.
Yes, exactly. Mike, where are you pouring those up? Are you saying I've had too much?
It's weird.
Athletic, it's in the name. Their intention really is to. If anyone here is active, if anyone here is a runner, like Athletic is really freaking awesome about that. They literally team up with like running groups and shit like that. And what they do is, I have a couple of accounts in Brooklyn, like Beer Karma. That's one of the stops for this like running group, and he's always got Athletic in there because it's not alcoholic and it tastes like beer. And they hang out and they drink and shoot the shit. There is a bar literally called Beer Run in Manhattan. That is, of course, one of the stops here.
There's famous stories that like German marathon runners, instead of passing out water, they drink beer when they're running. It has more electrolytes, and actually for running it sustains them. So German runners drink beer when they're on marathons.
I think shanties are another it's another thing that's kind of similar to shandies, where it's like, I think that started in, so you think about like Leinenkugel shandy, we have a couple of shandies.
Gansett shandy is our best shandy.
I love Gansett shandy. It is so good. You gotta have it ice cold. Ice cold.
Ice cold. Don't drink warm shandies.
No. Don't drink warm shandies ever in your life. It's a mistake.
That's what the Grease guy did.
Oh yeah. He made that mistake.
Yeah, warm shandies.
But yeah, so with shandies, the story was with that. I believe it was in Germany. Like cyclists would drop by these in the middle of the woods or whatever on their trails or cycling trails. These like shacks where there were just these little kind of inns and whatnot, and they would want stuff, easy drinking and whatnot. And there were just so many folks that the story goes that one of these guys was running the inn or whatever. So, I don't have any more of the beer that they were drinking or whatever. So he took, I believe it was a lager or a Hefeweizen. Shandy. It was a Hefeweizen. You're thinking of Schopper. I think it was a lager. And then mixed it with basically lemonade, and just made this refreshing concoction that was low ABV. That they could be really low, like 2%, like 3%, really low. They're so.
That sounds like a lot of fun. You're just biking along. You're on a bike trail. You come across all these inns. And then by the end of the day, you don't remember what you did because you've got the alcohol accumulates. So you're just like, I don't remember getting home.
Well, hopefully they do remember. Hopefully they haven't been drinking too many of those 2%ers. But yeah, then you have like Schopperhofer grapefruit, for example, where it's instead of lager, you have a wheat beer, a German wheat beer, Hefeweizen mixed with grapefruit juice. You get a little bit of
is very low. It's like
yeah,
0.5%.
yeah.
Maybe 2.5, like 2.8.
I'm just gonna keep on talking until you cut me off. All right, we're done. Bye.
Wait,
Did you wanna?
does anybody know any good breweries in Manhattan? Because I have yet to have gone to a
good question.
brewery
This
in
would be the last thing
Manhattan.
I'd say, unless Mike wanted me to, and I'll wrap up on. I should wrap up on a note about Manhattan. We're on Staten Island.
Yeah.
I'll make a comment about Manhattan. And I'll show some love to Staten Island.
I don't think Manhattan showed us though.
Yeah. All I'll say about Manhattan is Chelsea Craft Brewery was there for a while in the neighborhood of Chelsea, and then they eventually had to move up to the Bronx, and then they eventually closed completely.
And then Mark came here to the flagship, but
Yeah,
he's gone
so
now.
the main, he left.
Oh wait, was he with? Wait, what?
He was the head brewer, Mark, from Chelsea.
Oh yeah.
He's been head brewer of the flagship. Like now he left.
Interesting.
Is he the guy that went up to Maine? Is he the guy that went up to like Maine or
Now
Vermont?
it's Pat Morse.
But right now in Manhattan, there is Torch and Crown, not one of my brands, but that's basically Manhattan's only like real like brewery that's distributing, but they're self-distributing.
What's it called?
Brooklyn is landed here.
I don't think that's very nice brewing. Too expensive brewery.
It's too expensive.
I mean, like
Real estate's too expensive.
when I was doing this internship in Brooklyn, I was at it's called Housing Works in Brooklyn, and I was off of Willoughby Street. Up the block from where I was working was a brewery. It was this little Brooklyn brewery. I don't remember its name. I hope it's still there because that was 2019. Who the f knows? I wanted to go back there and try it out, but it was like I never had money for it. But like, what was the one that you mentioned in Manhattan?
Torch and Crown.
Torch and Crown.
Torch and Crown.
Yeah, they're Manhattans. They're kind of like a Manhattan
They used to
brewery.
do Conway Gastro Brewery. But that was
Well,
8 years ago.
Chris Kuzmi is at Fifth Hammer.
Yeah.
Fifth Hammer with Mary. So they're solid. They're great. They're good people.
Yeah. But that was one that was very few in that.
It's. I mean, really, it's just. Really, it's just Torch and Crown. And
We still have to
they're
get that crap out of my
self-distro.
car.
So I highly doubt their one rep is making it out to Staten Island. She's great. Don't get me wrong. She's excited.
Temporarily stored in your car? Matt.
But anyway, I'll start before the mic back. Just, thank you all for showing a little love to Threes. You know, super excited to
Give a hand for Andy's filling in.
I personally love this brewery a lot. I love what they're doing. But let's again talk about Staten Island. Like, I'm just loving just seeing what is coming out here and what's happening out here.
Staten Island's very unique beer culture compared to other boroughs. We're different. We like other beers that, not that we're behind, but we trend differently.
Sean is, I'm pretty sure, born and raised in Staten Island. That's why he keeps on saying we.
I'm a Staten Island beer guy.
He's teaching me about Staten Island. I'm born and raised in Jersey, but Elizabeth, so it's like right there. I live in Brooklyn there. Right there. Whatever.
We trend differently.
But it's really exciting to see spots like coming out here to Hop Shoppe. Like, you don't see spots like this with this much space, with like freaking arcades in the back. I am gonna hammer Tapper back there later. That is my game. Like, you don't see spots like this really that frequently in Manhattan or even in Brooklyn. There's just like literally, you don't have a lot of real estate. And there are spots here and there, but seeing spots like this, like Hop Shoppe, that are showing appreciation for fantastic beer, and really just upping the craft beer game out here in Staten Island. Like, it's really awesome to see that. Thank you to those who are like supporting and buying good beer. Thank you for those who are drinking good beer. Thank you. So applaud to you guys, to yourselves.
Everyone Threes, Hop Shoppe, and Beverage Island.
Just Hop Shoppe. Only come here.
Chad is in here.
Yeah, I'll pass the mic over to the mic to Mike.
Hey, let's have a hand for Julian. Thank you all for coming out. Our ongoing beer club. Next month we have a brewery who Laura and I kind of know from going up to Rochester. It's Resurgence from Buffalo, New York. And they have I'm hoping we can get it. I think it's seasonal, but they have a sponge candy stout. Does anybody know what sponge candy is? Anybody? Sponge candy? No. All right. Well, it's a chocolate-covered kind of candy, and the center is almost like a caramelized sugar, but it's like a sponge texture to it. So it looks like it would be heavy, but it's very light. And they have a sponge candy stout. I'm hoping you can get. And they have a bunch of great IPAs. They have recently we had a Resurgence key lime pie, Sauron, a lot of great stuff coming out of Resurgence, all different styles, and they're going to be great. I'm really excited to have them. They just very recently hit the New York market.
That is a non-alcoholic IPA.
For Beer Club as soon as possible, so we're going to have it next month.
No, he was just passing it around the table. It's not from
we'll have
Threes.
more beer clubs. So thank you all for coming out and trying all the beers and giving love to Threes.
It tastes like a
I
lime.
hope Mark from Threes feels better.
It tastes like limes.
And
like,
have a good night. Thank you.
Like lime.